Good morning. All right, this is for my geometry class. Your BLA 7A, because there's going to be two of them and they're from IXL today, but they're about completing the square. The first one you're supposed to do is J.9, complete the square, and this comes from, actually it comes from Algebra 2 in IXL. But our directions today are to complete the square. We're going to fill in the number that makes the polynomial a perfect square quadratic. Remember, a quadratic was anything whose highest degree was a 2, all right? So I have m squared plus 22m plus blank. The way we find this blank, which is like the c, when we think of our typical quadratic, we have the ax squared plus bx plus c, right? That's the standard form of a quadratic. So what we do not have is the c. Clearly my a is invisible. There's nothing there. That means it's an imaginary 1 on all of the examples today. All right. My b on a1 is 22. So this c is actually in a perfect square quadratic. This c is going to be your b divided by 2 squared. That b divided by 2 squared. That's what we need to fill in on all of these blanks. Okay? So my b is the number 22. We take the sign along with it. It is a positive 22 on here. So if I want to find the b divided by 2 squared, that would be 22. It's my b divided by 2. And I want to square that. I would go ahead and figure out, you can put it all in your calculator at once, or 22 divided by 2 is the number 11, right? So 11 squared is 121. You follow? So that's the process. It's the same thing we're going to do for all of these. We're going to fill in the blank with the b divided by 2 squared. Because what this is, if I look back at this, the reason they call it a perfect square, you remember when we factored, we had to find the numbers that added to the middle and multiplied to the last, am, like in the morning. So if I found the two numbers that both multiplied to 121 and added to 22, right? And then they gave me m. It doesn't matter what your variable is. In this case, it would be an m. The numbers that add to 22 and multiply to 121 are both 11. It's the same number, right? It is your b over 2. And we will be using this on the next video. But it's 11. 11 times 11 makes 121, but 11 plus 11 makes 22, right? So this is m plus 11 times another m plus 11, or we could just write it as m plus 11 squared, right? And that's why it's called a perfect square quadratic, because it came from the same number multiplied twice or squared. Okay, that was just a little proof there to tell you what they're talking about over here, but we don't need to do all that to check it every time. All right, on to number 2, x squared minus 12x plus blank. I said that the blank needs to be your b divided by 2 squared. So my b in this case is negative 12. It's never the x. There's never any x's. Your a, your b, and your c are all just coefficients. They're all just constants. There's just a number. X is x. That's what it is. But b is negative 12. So if I wanted my b divided by 2 squared, it would be a negative 12 divided by 2 squared. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. And when I square it, negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive 36. It is always positive. Whatever is in this blank is always positive. That is key. Whatever is in this blank, it is always positive. It doesn't matter if your b was positive or negative. Once I square it, your final blank, your c, is always going to be positive. Have I stressed that enough? Okay. On to number 3, I have my b divided by 2 squared. This time my b is 29. It's a positive 29, but it's a 29. That's not going to be pretty. So 29 divided by 2 squared. And let's see, I've worked this out. No, I don't know everything in my head. All right, there's 2 ways we could do this. We could square the 29 and square the 2. If I square the 29, I get 841. And if I square the 2, I get 4. You can write 841, and I'll just use the slash, divided by 4. That can very well be your answer. Or we could go with the decimal route. Either way will be fine. Okay, let's look at number 4. So number 4, my b, there's supposed to be a number in front of this plain variable, right? The 1 to the first power, there should be a number. I don't see a number. If I don't see a number, but there is a letter. If I see 1, there is 1. If I see 1, there is 1. If I see none, there is none, meaning 0. But I see 1g, so there is 1g, a negative g at that. So my b is negative 1. So my b over 2 squared is negative 1 over 2 squared. I said it's always going to be positive, right? So if I square this negative 1, it's going to give me a positive 1. If I square this 2, it'll give me a 4. So I can write 1/4, or like I said, if you want, you can put the decimal version. I can call it 0.25. Either way is fine. So here you could have written 1/4, or you could write 0.25. You got it? All right, number 5 is a star. Your b is negative 3. Oh, I'm telling you too much. Well, look, you can write the answer as either a fraction or as a decimal. I will accept both. All right, I hope this helps you guys. Remember J9, completing the square.